that we'll be discussing. And being that, moment of us discussing about finances, we will get into that conversation later on. Also, there's going to be a special edition of the coverage of boss of Safaricom, Peter Ndegwa, who will be joining us, of course, via radio, and this as well streamed right here. It will be an interesting conversation. Perhaps all the questions that you'd ever have for him, of course, Moshumbe, alongside Mukamburi, alongside Elizabeth Wutuko, will be taking us through that session, and we get that moment of answering the questions. But before then, we have this conversation in relation to what is playing out in the country, looking at the parliament getting back to systems as we look forward to see just how best they address the concerns that we have as a people of Kenya. Also, we'll be discussing much about devolution, just way forward amidst all these wrangles that sit in relation or in the question of just how best do we disburse funds to that level of devolution so that, it can be able to function well for purposes of making sure that services get to the ground. All this right here. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV 47KE. I'll be sampling some of your comments as we continue with the broadcast. But before then, we get to look at the newspapers. We have the Standard newspaper, the People Daily, as well as the Daily Nation. That's basically the papers, or those are the papers that we'll be looking at right now. Let's see what then the People Daily has in store. But meanwhile, as it opens, yes, here we are. It's on the tax conversation as well. It's a hot agenda. It's been a hot agenda for the better part of, this week, last week, the week before, yes, last week. And, it is still on as we seek to see just how members of parliament are going to, make sure that they create a balance between the executive or perhaps the government and the people. Tax hot agenda as members of parliament return. How will House vote the controversial budget proposal? Among key issues Parliament will debate on, as sessions resume today as well. Vetting of Haji Thuge on the cards. And of course, will House stand divided? A story captured on page 4 is one of the biggest questions that is being asked, and we'll be discussing that equally, just what way forward after the stall of the bipartisan talks. And of course, they find its way, or it is set to find its way into the chamber, and we'll be following up to keep you up to tabs as to the same. Equally, the cabinet secretaries are set to answer questions in plenary session, and Treasury CS Ndungu to table the 2023 budget estimates on June the 15th. Equally very important a conversation, and as well on corruption and economic crimes bill to be debated, and this presented by Mbeere. Also a member of parliament who will be, presenting his bill and perhaps just getting to see what, chances it stands to equally sail through. It looks as though it's quite controversial based on how best, the proposals are, and we seek to see whether the members of parliament then will give it a nod. Away from it, we have the Safari Rally gets about 32 million boost ahead of exciting championship. That is captured right there on the front page of the People Daily, expounded on page 31. And on this side, far-reaching changes as team stamps its authority. And we're talking about suppliers put on a notice as Nyakera's food vows to clean up mess that is at the agency or at the drug agency, and workers also face the axe. We'll also be looking forward to see how best KEMSA board is set to handle the activities on this entity for purposes of rooting out corruption, when it comes to the question of tendering processes as well as the procurement processes and numerous other hiccups that have bedeviled this entity. And this new board cancels all tenders and to fire workers. That is what is captured on the front page of the People Daily. Briefly on what is on the Daily Nation. Let's see what the Daily Nation details. We're talking about Tata's case, getting a quick perhaps, they're saying that they need to spearhead on this very case. The finance case or the finance bill case is certified as urgent, a story captured on page 6, perhaps, well, owing to the urgency of the conversation that is here and the fact that the same also is supposed to be looked at the level of parliament. And we're also talking about grounded cars and starving detainees as a cash crunch hits police station. This equally is quite unfortunate a report. And perhaps, well, the entities are looking into it to make sure that the matter is addressed. Away from it, unga sugar prices to go up again in the event that, so much adjustments are done. CBK survey finds recent rains behind fall in vegetable prices. And we're looking at the question of food security. Central Bank of Kenya's agriculture sector survey that was released on Friday shows that prices of major food commodities will remain high in June. Kenya now faces a maize crisis as only 2 million out of expected 10 billion bags of duty-free grain have been imported in 4 months. And we're also looking at NCPB says at least 15 billion is needed to relaunch strategic food reserve. But on this other side, currently more than 5.4 million Kenyans are faced with starvation and in urgent need of relief supplies. This is the conversation as to the hard times that we face and those ones that sit ahead of us as we gear up for higher prices of maize, flour, sugar, bread, eggs, rice, cooking flour, and other food items. This month, farmers and traders have warned, and of course, citing high input and fuel costs, reduced local production, and high input costs, and numerous other challenges as captured right there. Declare your sources of funding. NGOs are told only 25% of NGOs submitted their reports for the last financial year. And the Interior Ministry has warned that non-compliant organizations could be using these loopholes to facilitate illicit financial flows and activities in the country. That is a story captured on the back page, and therefore that audit, he says, is needed. This as employers offer short contracts to cut costs. This is quite unfortunate, a report, but is the reality on ground. And they say Kenyan employers hesitant to commit to full-time hiring on economic uncertainty are, of course, resorting to short-term contracts to limit overhead costs. Today, you will barely get more than 2-3 years the contract. Most of the times you'll be given one and then renewable based on how the economic tides then will be flowing. And on this other side, on the question of the climate also, as the world marked Environment Day, well, President William Ruto also joined on this very conversation and has said that it would be important to, cancel climate meetings and, of course, focus on making sure that there is substance out of the previous meetings that have been conducted. Ruto rattled World City Summit as he attended this one, and President Ruto has called for the scrapping off of these numerous cases of meetings and conferences that is in relation to global climate meetings. And, of course, he says ahead of COP28, it will be important for us to make sure that we get the gains out of the previous meetings that we have had. He believes the meetings have yielded nothing tangible, and of course, charging the thousands of delegates who arrived to the conference in planes of polluting the environment further. That equally is a conversation that is on. The climate conversation continues, not just in the country, but across the global fraternity. Those are the key stories that are captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Briefly, members of Parliament under siege as Parliament resumes today to a season that will test their nerves. The executive has bullishly asserted that members of Parliament will do as they say, while by legislating against some government wishes. Will government whim prevail? That's a story captured on page 6 of the conversation that is on. And it's basically what we'll be focusing on, that as members of Parliament resume sessions, just what should Kenyans expect in relation to handling some of these crucial matters that sit in the presence of Parliament and are awaiting deliberations from the members of Parliament. Big GMO debate, why groups want court orders. A story captured on page 11. It's been a conversation that is here and perhaps won't go away anytime soon, even as the government seeks to make sure that we are secure food-wise. But of importance, the people are saying that in as much as you want to push us to that point of food security then would incorporate the aspect of safety. And therefore, if GMOs are not safe, perhaps it is time that we change the conversation, as the government equally lifted the ban on GMOs. Farmers long wait for coffee cartels to die. Also a story captured on the Financial Beat. That is page 2 of the Standard newspaper. It's not been all rosy in this very important in this very important sectors. But then again, well, the government says that it is committed to making sure that the cartels then are a game of the past. Also, this entity being picked up by the by the Deputy President, just to make sure that he joins in this conversation of making sure that it's a clean entity. A peek into budgets drawn by governors, also one of the things that we'll be discussing this morning in relation to devolution and what it will take to make devolution a success amidst all these complaints of late disbursements of funds. Sometimes, the delays would hugely cost, the activities down there. Officials rail at NGOs over tax evasion. That equally is a conversation that is there. And as you have seen, is a story that has been captured as well on these other papers. Sifting fact from fiction on eucalyptus tree. Also this in relation to just how best we can preserve the environment, looking at some of the key trees that would be of importance in making sure that we preserve the environment. And we're looking at 725 liters of water the tree needs to produce a kilo of biomass. Quite interesting, a conversation as the world marked Environment Day. And on that very note, we shelve the papers, but still pick it up on the stories that we have prepared. The 2023 World Environment Day procession, led by the KWS Kenya Band, snaked through the streets of Nakuru City. That is from the office of the governor on its way to Lake Nakuru, where the national celebrations for the World Environment Day was being held. Meanwhile, Kenyans converged in different counties to commemorate World Environment Day with a message of keeping our country clean. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
This year's National World Environment celebrations were held at Lake Nakuru in Nakuru County, an event that was hosted by Nakuru Governor Susan Kika and graced by the presence of Cabinet Secretary for Environment Soipan Tuya. Recycle! Speaking in Nakuru, Cabinet Secretary for Environment Soipan Tuya said that the government is seeking to work with community-based organizations in an effort to build a robust cyclical economy driven by safe waste management.
We urge all members of the public to implement the provisions of sustainable waste management by ensuring segregation of waste at source to facilitate recovery of clean material for high-quality recycling. We also call upon the private sector to adopt a circular economy production approach. We must close the loop on linear economic production if we are to deal with waste, as well as providing solutions to plastic pollution.
Nakuru City generates about 700 tons of solid waste annually, of which 20% is plastic. And most are not lucrative for recycling and upcycling, thus ending up as a menace. Moreover, single-use plastics clog our stormwater drains, causing flooding in case of heavy downpours, degrading our environment, choking our wildlife, and resulting in human health issues.
In Nairobi County, Kenya Institute of Development of Studies, in conjunction with Riverbanks Primary School in Nairobi, today marked World Environment Day through collecting plastic littered in the compound and planting trees in their compound as a way of ensuring fresh air in the school and its environs.
And we'll urge that anyone across the nation, especially the education sector, beginning with primary, secondary, colleges and universities, that they take part in planting trees so that we can be able to live in an environment that is livable, that is clean, and that is healthy.
In the same county, institutions of engineers of Kenya, together with Envy Club of University of Nairobi, celebrated World Environment Day by planting trees at the University of Nairobi. Speaking during the exercise, Engineer Damrejo Yalo said that they chose to plant trees which will act as catchments of plastics before they get to the river.
The theme for this year, of course, is beyond plastics, but we were looking at the fact that trees will act as catchment or trap the plastics before they reach to the river that is nearby.
Elsewhere in Bomet County, Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok and other governors from the Lake Region Economic Bloc urged the national government to work closely with counties by formulating legislation that will regulate negative effects of climate change.
If we don't use whatever we have in our environment in a sustainable way, then we can be very sure that we will not have a tomorrow. A very rich heritage that we can hand over to our generation tomorrow is a well-preserved environment. And that is why, as Bomet, as governors in regional economic bloc, and as government of Kenya, because we are also aligned with the national agenda.
And in Laikipia County, environmental stakeholders have called for partnership to eradicate the plastic pollution menace. Laikipia County Deputy Governor Reuben Kamuri decried the increase of plastic usage leading to pollution of water bodies and drainage blockage hence affecting the ecosystem.
Hizo plastics ambazo zinatupwa kwa community zinaleta madhara kadha. Kama vile ukienda kwa environment, una beauty ya environment itakuwa haiko safi hata kidogo. Pia pollution to the water bodies. Utaona water bodies ambazo ziko karibu, pia kuna hiyo infiltration of hiyo uchafu kwa hizo water bodies. Pia tuseme hata magonjwa kama hizo mosquito breeding can be a good hub for mosquito breeding. Sisi ile kitu tunataka kusema, today being a big day, all of us, all the agencies, NEMA and the national government, tunakuja pamoja to make sure our environment is clean.
Josephine, TV47.
And the second phase conference of the International Union Conference on Habitat commenced Monday at Gigiri in Nairobi County with the presence of various world leaders, including President William Ruto. Our correspondent Isaac Famba has prepared the following story, that is to provide insight into the conference proceedings.
As the world grapples with the ongoing effect of climatic change, including issues of such as hunger and drought, the urgency to find a sustainable solution is increasing. President William Ruto, speaking at the United Nations Conference in Nairobi today, highlighted some strategies implemented by the government to enhance environmental preservation.
A key barrier to our aspiration for sustainable urbanization happens to be the very impediment to efficient, sustainable climate action in the global South and Africa, and that is sufficient and affordable financing.
Additionally, he emphasized the need for urban expansion following the growing global population.
The world population has reached 8 billion people, 57% of whom live in urban areas. These numbers are expected to increase steadily in the coming years, but urban populations are projected to rise even faster. In the global South, the rates will be even more pronounced, whilst in Africa, where the median age is 19, urban populations will be very youthful, presenting a novel set of challenges and opportunities for national economic and urban planning and general development.
With the global population increasing concentrating in cities, the head of state emphasized the government plans to improve urban centers. One of the initiatives mentioned was the construction of affordable housing units across the country, aiming to provide opportunity for everyone to own a home.
A key barrier to our aspiration for sustainable urbanization happens to be the very impediment to efficient, sustainable climate action in the global South and Africa, and that is sufficient and affordable financing. As a result, we are unable to effectively pursue all the opportunities in sustainable urbanization and leverage them to promote the broader agenda of economic transformation, climate action, and sustainable development.
Addressing the challenges of poverty, unemployment, and impact of COVID-19, a statement from United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, delivered by a representative from the UN, stressed the imperative for government worldwide to make wholehearted commitment in finding a permanent solution in addressing the current situation.
Despite our promise to leave no one behind, some 670 million people live in extreme poverty. Almost 1/4 of the young people are without school, training, or employment. And the safe access to the water and the sanitation services still affects billions.
Isaac Famba, TV47.
And the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, KEMSA, made the decision to revoke the list of all pre-qualified suppliers in response to the controversies surrounding the authority's procurement processes. During a press briefing, Irungu Nyakera, the KEMSA board chairperson, announced that the procurement process would begin anew to ensure that only farms meeting the necessary standards will be selected.
The reforms at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency KEMSA have started in earnest, with the board now revoking a list of pre-qualified suppliers due to controversies surrounding the authority's operations.
Over the past months, KEMSA has faced significant challenges that have undermined public trust. We recognize the impact this has had on the perception of our organization, and we take these concerns seriously. The board is fully committed to investigate allegations of corruption and holding those responsible accountable.
The board's chair, Irongo Nyakera, has stated that the board will conduct a review of all ongoing contracts to verify that they had undergone a fair process. The steps were emphasized as crucial measures to promote effectiveness and accountability within KEMSA's supply chain management system.
Strengthening our procurement processes and supply chain management to ensure efficiency, fairness, transparency, and integrity. This includes immediately revoke the current list of pre-qualified suppliers and restart an objective process afresh to ensure that only companies that provide value for money are pre-qualified.
In addition, Nyakera ordered an audit of all staff within a 2-week period to assess their performance and retain those who provide value to the authority. As part of this effort, the hiring of new staff in KEMSA have also been temporarily halted.
We are implementing stricter financial controls, regular audits, and risk assessments to detect and prevent any potential irregularities. We are committed to conducting a thorough review of our operational processes and identify areas of optimization. We will review and audit the human capital of the organization within 2 weeks from today through a staff needs assessment and document validation with a view to retaining qualified staff and redeploying them in line with departmental needs. Staff on contract who cannot meet or who do not meet the requirements of the institutions will not have their contracts renewed any further.
This development occurred in the midst of a scandal involving the cancellation of a 3.7 billion shillings mosquito nets tender by the Global Fund, an international financing and partnership organization. The cancellation was due to the irregular procurement processes at KEMSA, as the foreign agency discovered improper bids from the 3 qualified companies. The tender committee was criticized by the foreign agency for favoring certain bidders.
We will acquire and institute a new enterprise ERP system to establish organizational interconnectivity and improve accountability of decision makers within 3 months from today.
Following the scandal, President William Ruto took action by terminating the appointment of Health PS Josephine Mburu and dissolving the entire KEMSA board. Additionally, Terry Ramadhani, the authority's former CEO, was among 8 staff members suspended to facilitate investigations into the matter. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
And Siaya Deputy Governor William Oduol, who has been at loggerheads with his boss, Governor James Orengo, over alleged mismanagement of the county activities, is now being investigated by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, with new evidence being identified against him. The deputy governor is being accused of manipulation and influence of payment of certain contractors against the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act. This story was prepared by Eric Matika.
According to the County Chief of Staff, Colonel Retired Cyrus Oguna, the allegations leveled against the Siaya County government about misappropriation of public resources and abuse of office and the loss of Kenya shillings 600 million in Orengo's regime is of the previous regime, and investigations about the matter are ongoing.
Last week we had a discussion regarding various claims and allegations that have been leveled against the Nyalore government. Allegations to do with misappropriation of public resources, and also abuse of office. Our discussion last week touched on two key areas. The first area was delay in concluding investigations by the EACC of possible loss of Kenya shillings 600 million or thereabout. The second key area was was calling upon the EACC to quickly open investigations on claims by the Deputy Governor. His claims centered on flagrant misuse of public funds, denial of privileges, and victimization of officers, among others. We want to reiterate here, ladies and gentlemen, that the issue of 600 million that has been purported to have been lost in this regime is a purely historical, like we said last week. Investigations to this have been going on for the last 2 years, long before even this administration came into office.
Oguna says that the executive has allegedly identified new evidence of abuse of office by the deputy governor, which shall be handed over to EACC for investigation. He alleges that William Odwal manipulated and influenced payment of certain contractors against the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015 and Public Finance Management Act of 2012. He said that the new evidence will be made public in due course.
We further want to add that we have identified new evidence of abuse of office by the Deputy Governor, which will be handed over to the EACC to aid in the investigation. This evidence touches on manipulation and influencing payment of certain contractors, which is contrary to the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015 and Public Finance Management Act 2012. This new evidence shall be made public within the course of time.
The Deputy Governor is scheduled to appear before the Siaya County Assembly tomorrow, Tuesday 6th, where a special committee formed to look into an impeachment motion tabled by East Assemble MCA Gordon Onguru will be tabling its report. Collins Lusweti, TV 47.
We'll be getting you updates on that developing story. Now, in a bid to combat illicit financial flows, the government is now demanding compliance from non-governmental organizations, NGOs, by requiring them to file annual returns and disclose their funding sources. This heightened vigilance comes as a response to a concern, reports revealing that only around 30% of the 12,162 registered NGOs in the country submitted their returns during the 2021-2022 financial year.
Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo, has expressed his dissatisfaction with the low level of compliance by NGOs to file annual returns and describe it as unacceptable. He emphasized that such non-compliance provides reasons to suspect involvement in illicit activities, including financing of terror.
Looking at the numbers, we are talking of excess of 12,000 NGOs. But it's interesting that barely, I doubt it gets to 30%, filed their returns in the last financial year, or at least within the year in question that we were launching the sector report. And to me, that is an indictment, not just on the board, the NGO board, but also on the council.
The PAs urged NGOs to prioritize transparency in their funding sources and expenditure, emphasizing that their financial record should reflect integrity and commitment to ethical practices.
The sum of our individual efforts. This symbiotic relationship is a recipe for success. The report we are launching today indicates that you guys have spent in excess of 185 billion.
He reassured the sector players that the government is dedicated to creating favorable environment for their operations, with plans underway to implement the awaiting Business Process Outstanding Act. Addressing representatives from the NGOs, the PAs called for reciprocity, urging them to honor their obligation as testament to their commitment to the values that drive their services to humanity.
It's critical that as we go on about our businesses, we will be as transparent as it gets. Because again, as a government, we will be running a transparent government, and we don't expect anything less from yourselves.
He emphasized the importance of total compliance with the country's legal and regulatory frameworks, urging unregistered organizations to formalize their status as the first step towards ensuring accountability, transparency, and legitimacy in their operations. The PS made the remarks during the launch of the annual NGO Sector Report 2021-2022, which highlights the activities carried out by the NGOs during the financial year. The report, based on annual reports submitted by individual NGOs in accordance with the Non-Governmental Organizations Coordination Act, NGO sector in Kenya spent a total of 185.5 billion Kenyan shillings. This amount was allocated to various areas, including 118 billion Kenyan shillings for project implementation, 49.7 billion Kenyan shillings for personal emoluments, 18.4 billion Kenyan shillings for administration costs, and 4.4 billion for tangible assets. Jackson Chacha, TV47.
And now to a good story. Livelihoods in Wajir County heavily rely on extensive livestock production. However, the adverse impact of droughts, increasing insecurity, and challenges in farming have forced the community to explore alternative means of sustaining their livelihoods. As a result, irrigation schemes have been established in various parts of the Tarbaj constituency within Wajir County. A shift towards farming is seen as a way to build resilience and adapt to the changing conditions. Our correspondent Hashim Jimal recently visited Tarbaj, and that is constituency in Wajir County, to assess the situation and provides a first-hand account of the developments.
It is no longer news that the world population is increasing at fast rate. The net effect of this is that if resources, financial and otherwise, do not increase, it will be increasingly difficult to sustain households. The fact that livelihoods are shrinking rapidly. Climate change has made the already bad situation worse, as the drought period has led to the loss of lives and livelihoods. Arid and semi-arid lands in Kenya, mostly in the north, being largely affected. Climate change is turning fresh water into the planet's most scarce resource. The droughts being experienced in some parts of the world, including Kenya, notwithstanding. Kenya, like the whole world, has two choices: continue talking or start acting. Imagine if Kenya can turn the semi-arid northeastern green and produce fresh food, enough water and energy to sustain the local population. A group of men from the dry Tarbaj constituency in Wajir County are making it a reality. People say it is too good to be true, but they say seeing is believing. The journey of this initiative began after these men forced to abandon their traditional pastoral life, the livestock having succumbed to the ravaging droughts. A dry season that also forced them out of their villages, settling into the bushes, where life became even harder.
Hapa kila kitu iko sawa, hatuna shida, ilhali leo tunaandamana mambo ya mashamba ambaye tuliambiwa na Mheshimiwa Hussein Abdi Barre kana kwamba wale ambaye walichagua yeye waendelee kulima mashamba ili wafaidike kama Wakenya wengine ama dunia zote ambaye katika dunia hii. Tunashukuru kwa sababu kwanza ni mzuri mtu akupatie mawaidha kuhusu hiyo mambo. Kama sio hivyo nadhani hatungefaidika.
They now say the reality differentiation between the pastoralism life and farming is a dream on the brick. With climate change, pastoralism has become an increasingly unsustainable livelihood option, with encouragement from their area member of parliament urging to embrace irrigation, farming and providing them with the tools, seedlings and pesticides, to themselves sacrificing their energy into sustaining their livelihood through this new mindset.
The sub-county is composed of 8 centers, whether administrative or no, or just an established settlement. So more than 80 centers are now fully involved in crop production, and at the end of the day, they are expecting to harvest some produce like sorghum, maize, cowpeas, and different types of vegetable crops. We are also very happy, personally, as an extension officer in the sub-county. I'm very happy to underline the effort and the help and the cooperation the Member of Parliament for Tarbaj constituency, Mr. Hussein Abdi Barre, the support he gave us, the will he gave us, and the cooperation and the partnership he has shown with the sub-county agricultural department, the Department of Agriculture, Tarbaj.
The successful and bountiful harvest enables the farmers to sell the produce in Wajir town and enjoy the hard-earned income, and which will also aim at helping the community deal with the malnutrition by ensuring adequate food production, improving livelihoods, and mitigating climate change.
We lost our livestock during the droughts, and the method we are embracing now is different. Our livestock perished in the triple droughts we witnessed. We thank our Member of Parliament who motivated us to do farming.
Continued development of irrigation will hopefully address and solve the food security problem in Wajir County.
Kama mjuavyo, kulikuwa na ukame, miaka mingi ya ukame, kama miaka 4 kulikuwa na ukame na wanyama wengi wakapotezwa. Vile ilipokuwa hivyo, mimi nikaanza kuhamasisha wakazi wa Tarbaj kuanzia wakati wa campaign, na baada hiyo hata katika msimu huo wa ukame nimeweza kupalilia ama kutayarisha mashamba kutumia trakta ya wakulima ili waweze kujitayarisha mvua itakapoanza waweze kulima. Na nilikuwa nikiwahimiza watu wajitayarishe kulima msimu huu wakati mvua utakapokuja. Na ninafurahi ya kwamba watu wa Tarbaj wamechukua hamasisho hilo kutoka kwangu na wakatayarisha mashamba yao, na kwa sasa ninajivunia ya kwamba watu wa Tarbaj wamezalisha chakula cha kutosha cha mtama na mahindi, maharagwe na baadhi ya mimea mingine yameweza kupandwa na yamejitokeza, na tunatarajia kuweza kupata mazao ya kutosha safari ambayo kwa wengine inaweza kuwapeleka.
From the north to the rift, Baringo Technical Training Institute has been closed indefinitely following an early morning running battle between police and irate students who staged demonstrations citing various issues with their school and the principal. Among issues raised by the students are capitation fee, which they claim that is still part of school fees they cater for. They also accused their principal for favoring students from his tribe and giving contracts to his kins who come from backyard areas and locking out other people who would be in better position to render the services. Baringo County TVET's Regional Director Peter Cheriot, however, claimed that the issue arose from recently conducted Students' Council's elections. A number of the students have been arrested and are held up in Cabernet Police Station.
We are demanding that comrades' rights and choices must be respected. We also want to say that the welfare of all the students must be respected. We are asking for an audit into the principal's accounts, the school accounts, and all the principal's close allies. We are also bringing an issue about nepotisms and favoritisms in appointments and dismissals within the institution.
We have listened to the students. Tumeweza kuambia kwamba some of their grievances we are looking into them, but they turned riotous because they were not patient. Kwa hivyo tukaja kuhakikisha kwamba usalama ya wanafunzi iko sawasawa, usalama ya wanao wafanyakazi hapa iko salama, na pia tuone kwamba watoto hawawezi kuleta madhara yoyote katika shule.
We try to talk to the students
after hearing their grievances. However, I think students were not able to, listen. They became rowdy and violent, and now the issue that arose was security of the institution, properties in the institution, and that is why we make the decision to close the institution.
And Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has asked the leadership of the county government to support the national government's efforts to deal with illegal alcohol and drugs. Gachagua has stated that the cases of alcohol consumption have been on the rise and has called on the governors to come up with strategies to combat the cases. He further added that since the license issuing authority was transferred from Nakada and taken to the counties, illegal alcohol businesses have increased.
There is a matter that we have been handling on drugs and substance abuse. And the truth of the matter is that after a few meetings with stakeholders in Rift Valley, in the central Kenya region, in the coast region and other areas, it has been established that after the advent of devolution and the function of licensing was removed from Nakada to the county governments, everything seems to have gone haywire. As a result, almost every establishment in the rural setting has been licensed as a bar and restaurant. That has created a huge problem with our security officers. They are not able to deal with drunkenness. They are not able to deal with illicit brews because every establishment is licensed by the county government. We are requesting the county governments to consider to partner with the national government administration, with Nakada, with the National Police Service, and create one committee that can look into the issues of licensing, as well as the Ministry of Health, so that we can work together to harmonize the licensing policy. As it is, the matter is out of hand.
As the Mula Umoja One Kenya leaders have seemingly poured cold water on claims of reemergence of the outlawed Mungiki group, the matter was raised by Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua last week. But as Micah Gungo reports, Azimio la Umoja Coalition leader Raila Odinga now claims that the move seeks to threaten Kikuyu businesses or business people into submission over their opposition to the controversial Finance Bill 2023 set to be tabled before the Parliament this Thursday for its second reading.
The opposition stand on the finance bill has taken a new twist, with Azimio la Umoja now sensationally claiming that it is designed to hurt some Kenyans. Azimio now claiming that the finance bill of 2023 is intentionally aimed at marginalizing influential business individuals in Mount Kenya region, who have openly expressed their disagreement with certain clauses in the bill.
Ile hatua ambayo tunataka Wakenya wachukue, hiyo mswada ikiletwa kule kwa vitisho, wakishurutisha bunge kupitisha hiyo mswada. Lakini wabunge wetu wote tayari wameambiwa wapinge vikali hiyo mswada.
Many of the tax measures contained in the finance bill currently before Parliament are unreasonable and clearly directed not only at the nation but particularly at Mount Kenya businesses. The proposed turnover tax is basically a tax on assets whose primary objective is to impoverish the mamambogas, bodabodas, and other vulnerable Kenyans.
Specifically, they oppose provisions such as 3% housing levy and the 16% VAT on petroleum products. And according to the coalition, these measures are seen as deliberate attempt to exclude top business figures from the region.
We demand the immediate withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2023 in its entirety. The unwarranted and uncalled for attacks on His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Azimio chairman, must stop.
The coalition says that the business community is of the opinion that the proposed provisions in the finance bill will have adverse effects on their enterprises and will hinder their growth and profitability. The finance bill, which is scheduled to be presented in Parliament this week, aims to generate billions of shillings in tax revenue from Kenyans, but supporters of Azimio la Umoja and some leaders from the government side have pledged to vehemently oppose and block the passage of the bill in Parliament.
Wale wabunge ambao wataunga mkono hiyo mswada, nataka wale wapigaji kura wao waweke wao kwenye darubini ili wajue kwamba wao ni wasaliti wa wananchi wa Kenya.
The coalition's leader Raila Odinga has made a promise to provide a comprehensive plan of action on Thursday this week, as he intends to outline his proposed approach or strategy regarding the finance bill and its related issues. Meanwhile, the recent confrontation between police and former Mungiki leader Maina Njenga has been called out by Azimio leaders who have linked Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua to the drama.
We are seeing the profiling of Mount Kenya youth as Mungiki, which amounts to an attempt by the regime to create an artificial crisis to justify violence against innocent youth from the mountain.
Tumeona njama kifanywa kujaribu kufanya watu hao ni watu ni wahalifu, ati ni Mungiki na kadhalika. Wengine wanashikwa, kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Maina Njenga.
Raila has made allegations suggesting an orchestrated effort to revive and reinstate the banned criminal group, further raising concerns about the potential resurgence of the outlawed sect.
We want to be told of one singular event in any one small village within central Kenya, the broader Mount Kenya, which has prompted this debate. Because we belong here.
You may have the barrel of the gun. You may have all the powers. You may have all the police. But when the day of reckoning comes, you'll be alone.
The threat in the mountain is going to be like the days of Nyayo, the days of Mwakenya. All they needed to do is brand you a Mwakenya and plant something on you, and you'll be arrested.
Raila has also dismissed assertions made by the deputy president that he is a son of the Mau Mau freedom fighters. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
All right, and it's exactly 56 minutes past 6, or is it 4 minutes to the top of the hour? And we get to the conversation. We already have two gentlemen that have joined us for this very conversation. It will be about members of parliament and the fact that they're back in session to a tray of activities, just how best do they handle them. And equally, we discuss devolution, just what is left of this crucial aspect of governance in the country, and also that very aspect that allows the common mwananchi at the level of the grassroots to enjoy the best of the government. So make sure that you keep it right here. The hashtag is Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela TV 47K. And so as we get into this conversation, I hope that you are part and parcel of it. I'll be sampling some of your comments as we get to that. Allow us to take a quick short breather, and then I come back with the gentlemen for the conversation. And perhaps in the shortest time possible, we will speak to these matters that I have highlighted, be taking us through, the resumption of the members of parliament on their sessions, as well as the conversation on what way devolution. And joining me for this is Kevin Osido, Executive Director of the County Governance Watch. Kevin, thank you so much for creating time. Perhaps the best person to speak about devolution this morning. But Mheshimiwa too, who's a former Member of Parliament, and that is a Member of Parliament of Mwingi, on Joe Mutambo, as well is in a position to speak of devolution and the resumption of sessions for the members of parliament. And so, gentlemen, thank you so much for creating time. Dr. Peter Mbaye says he's somewhere on the way. I hope he gets here on time. Mheshimiwa, thank you once again for creating time. And we get into this very conversation. I know with you and with Kevin, we have spoken about the finance bill. So for a moment, we shelve that. But then again, the members of parliament are getting back to session, and getting back to session at a time when there's so much for them to discuss in relation to what interests the common mwananchi and what will set the agenda and the conversation, for the next financial year. We're talking about the budget. Of course, conversation is still on. The finance bill is here. We're talking about the vetting of key officials of government, just so to see to it whether they're going to sail through or not. We're talking about numerous bills that speak to the concerns of the people of Kenya, including that one that addresses the question of corruption. Your expectations for, from the 13th Parliament?
Thank you very much for inviting me this morning.
Thank you.
It's good to see you again.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. I am disturbed by only one thing. When members of parliament go to parliament, do they go execute their mandate or they execute the wishes of other people? That is the big concern we have in the country. And you ask ourselves, among the members of parliament, who speaks their mind?
Good question.
Who speaks their mind?
Yeah.
And who does what they think is good for the country or for the people who elected them? If we could have such members of parliament, then this country would be different. But today, tomorrow, and the day after, what members of parliament will do, they will do the wishes of their kingpin, of their party leaders, or their affiliate members, but nobody will debate with their conscience. If you do that, if you get somebody like that who will say, I'll speak my mind, that person will not be the parliament. And one of them is seated here with you. I did try to speak my mind.
Yes.
I did try to articulate issues based on what I think is right for the country and is right for the people who elected me.
Right.
I've never seen the door of the parliament since then.
Well, this is quite unfortunate. Hearing this from a former member of parliament, Kevin Osido, perhaps justifies your argument, on the onset or from the onset. I remember when, of course, the parliament was being, the members of parliament were being sworn in and they swung to action. You're amongst the few people I had conversations with in relation to just what we expect from the 13th parliament. And really, you amongst other people that I hosted did not have any essence of, belief and confidence in the 13th Parliament. So just a confirmation in relation to that. And so what are we doing in this case?
Thank you so much, Linda. And of course, Mheshimiwa, with whom we have shared a number of platforms. And as he says that, particularly from experience, he's been one of the most prolific members of Parliament that Kenya has had, I would say since our independence.
Yeah.
And for him to have an assessment of the 13th Parliament in that clear and vivid manner really presents the kind of members that we have in Kenya. And one thing that I have to say is that it basically also shows the kind of people that we have in our society.
Yeah.
Because when you get to the level of being an honorable member in an august house, a house that demands and expects a lot of respect from people and other institutions, and particularly given the nature of their roles and responsibilities, representation, legislation, and oversight. And so when you assess the functions of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, against the expectations of the people, and indeed against their roles as just members and Kenyans, then it will be too much to expect anything from most of the members. And the indicators are clear, Linda. One, you look at the degree of bills that are submitted to the floor of the House, the degree of conversations that take place there, the indicators of numbers of members who are present when conversations on issues that matter to the Kenyans are in Parliament, so that you talk about the quorum. A number of times we have been treated to quorum hitches that really therefore vilify the essence of being honorable members and really why they need to be in those houses. You have clearly indicated the kind of entry that they are coming to meet when they arrive at Bunge today. And looking at the kind of conversations that have been going on, even in the rallies outside during this time that they have been on recess, I don't expect much more of a difference from what they've been saying. Some even tell you, like a matter that is of big concern to Kenyans, the finance bill that currently is really the biggest talk of the town. You have undertaken a public participation process, and a number of organizations, I think official reports have it that there are 84 interested groups that appeared before the budget committee. And 74 of 83 or 84 organizations rejected what you expect parliamentarians who represent the people to therefore also be on the side of the majority. And they will tell you it doesn't matter. He bill it apita without even an amendment, without a comma or a full stop. And so you ask yourself, then why are you in Bunge? But then to sum it all, Linda, I think is a conversation that has been ongoing. And one former Interior Cabinet Secretary told us that we are electing wash-wash, people who are thugs, people who are thieves, people who do not deserve a member to be called a member of Parliament or an honorable member of an august house. So that is really what we expect. But no, needless to say that we also have a few of them within that house who are very focused. They know why they are there. But unfortunately, as they say, you more or less like a drop in the ocean. If you're the only sane mind in a forest of vultures, then sometimes you stand the chance of being swallowed.
Perhaps to expound the conversation further and to pick it up from where Mheshimiwa left it, that we all acknowledge that indeed there could be a problem of concern, or, that would be what Mheshimiwa says, that if you are that noble mind, then unfortunately, you do not get to see the doors of Parliament. Mheshimiwa says that because of that aspect of sobriety and that aspect of being keen on, addressing concerns as should be, he is not lucky to go back to Parliament. And I ask myself, I thought it's the people who go out there to vote for the one that they prefer. So when you say that, once you appear to be noble, once you appear to be sane, once you appear to be objective, that then you are locked out from going back to Parliament. What exactly does it paint about the election processes in the country? Does it speak to the fact that, well, there are superpowers that conduct and that drive the activities of elections? Or it is your people again, and the people that really do not appear to appreciate noble minds in that space?
Allow me, for lack of better words, say this. We have turned our political space to a cult. Unfortunately, we have turned our political space to a cult, whereby this group of people believe in certain direction. And that's it. I'll give a good example, and I have no fear or shame. Go to Ukambani. What do they believe in? They believe in what they're being taught by a particular person. And they will do that. It doesn't matter whether the person who is opposing is doing good to them or not. That's why you would ask yourself, why would people die in Shakahola? Because they believed in whoever was telling them what he was telling them. So that is what is happening today. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter what you do to Nyanza. President Ruto can appoint every person to the government today
that he wants.
But come election time, they'll vote to one man.
Yes.
To one particular direction. Go to Ukambani. You will do whatever you can. I seated here, there is nothing which I've never done to the people of Mwingi Central. Call development. Call whatever you want to call it. When it came to the time of voting, they took the direction they were advised. Right? That's what they did.
Right.
And that's what they do. Because that's the count they believe in. And that is the big challenge we have in this country. The moment we free ourselves from that count and make our own independent mind, what you see from the members of parliament is a reflection, is a mirror of our society.
Yeah.
That's what they believe in. If you go singing tomorrow, Kalonzo is the president, Kalonzo is the president, somebody else comes and says something totally different, you are home tomorrow. It doesn't matter how good you are, what you can do for them. They don't look at that. They don't look at it.
So the people are likely to
Let me give you, we had a scenario.
Yeah.
We had Mwau, we had Mulinge, who did even roads, who did even power. And he went and he pleaded with the people, you know, I brought you power. Electricity. I brought the road. Do you know what they told them? Take the power back.
Take your road.
Remove
Take
the
your
road.
power.
Take your road. We don't want you. We are going to do what our leaders told us.
Yeah.
So this is the big problem we have in this country.
Wow.
And what you are seeing today, so it doesn't matter what you say. It matters what the cult leader tells, political cult leader tells the people. And once we come out, once we cleanse that even Kenyans can have independent mind to think. The people I want to salute is the people of Mount Kenya.
Yeah.
Because they had their leader, who was Uhuru Kenyatta. They went against him. If other regions and other tribes or other Kenyans can emulate what Central did, this country can come out of it. And I'm seeing the same thing. What they did last year, you know, history repeats itself very easily in this country.
Yes.
The energy which they aid voting Ruto in, what I'm seeing with my two naked eyes without sunglasses, I'm seeing it repeat, this story repeating itself. It has started coming, of which I want to advise my good friend, William Ruto. He's my good friend. He's someone I've sat with in my own house, and we ate demand in my Indichoba. In my own house. I want to tell him this. Watch this space.
Because
the direction we are taking today, the mountain, those people who sang those songs,
which they did.
Which they did. They will make another song.
To remove him.
Remove him.
Is it so?
I'm telling you. Watch this space.
Daktari is here, and Daktari is a friend of this government, perhaps part of this government, campaigned amongst the people from the mountain that say they're going to wake up very early in the morning, to pull a protest vote against, the former president, and successfully installed the current president. And today he speaks on behalf of the government. I want to believe.
But they have not given him anything yet.
No, they have given him something. Let me read his title, which is quite a mouthful. Head of Ministerial Delivery Unit, Ministry of Investments, Trade and Industry.
Hey,
where were you?
That's too much.
Wait, it's a mouthful.
What is that? What is that?
He has gotten something. The first time he was a member of county assembly when I hosted him. Then the other time he was a governance and policy expert.
Yeah.
Today, the title has changed. Where have you been?
Thank you so much.
So the title comes with disappearance.
Good to see you. We were laying some foundation. Good to see you, gentlemen. Good to see you, gentlemen.
And we agreed.
And my good
No.
I promise you. And that's why we have been trying to, lay foundation so that now, we can continue coming. For me, I promised you, we must always give information. The biggest gap that happens always is when people don't know what is happening. And that's why I said, of course, there have been issues here and there. Of course, tend to lay foundation, tend to set things right. But I'm always available to give information because we come here just to talk to Kenyans.
Have you failed as the Kenya Kwanza government?
The way we have been talking to Kenya, like you said, all those years, we have to keep on talking to Kenyans and informing them what's happening. I have followed your discussion as I was coming here. I'm sorry for being late a bit. And I could hear the frustration when Mheshimiwa, about all these things. Please, once you elect a leader, nobody elects themselves. Nobody. People queue. Actually twice, during nominations and during by-elections. And there are people who win using the popular parties, but they don't get it during the final because people refuse them. Please, once you are elected and you are sworn in, people must learn to respect their leaders because nobody elected themselves. That's for me. When I see headlines like MPs under siege, or every eyes on Parliament. Have eyes on Parliament.
Would you not say it's under siege, looking at, first of all, the issues they're supposed to address and the purported threats from the executive that you have to swing our way, or...
I would say this, and I want to be loyal. I want to be very, very loyal to what I've been saying all the years. Like from 2018, when we started as supporting the then deputy president, now president, all the way after up to now. Let's be very clear on one thing. Once people elect their leaders, they must trust them to act on their behalf.
Yeah.
We cannot have the adults are what? That a million. That a million who are 18 and above, who have IDs. They cannot all go to Parliament. There's something called social contract.
Yeah.
Once you vote, you give up your rights. You give up some of your rights to that person who will go and represent you. So let's not have this debate that it's like we don't trust them. We voted for them. And by the way, there are only two things that happen to Kenyans. Either you voted for yourself if you are fine, or you voted for someone, or you went to Mombasa for beach and holiday, you refused to vote. There are only three categories of Kenyans.
Is that a justification,
you must trust. Let me say
you
this.
cannot trust
whether you like or not.
Praise you once and twice.
There's something called social contract. Let me put it this way.
Yes.
From a point of governance, purely, once a leader is elected, you have given up. Let me put those words. Some of your rights to him. Now, whatever they do it on your behalf. So long as they present you as your constituency. What am I saying here? Kindly, can we learn in this country to kindly allow that member of Parliament has been going through, for example, this finance bill. Let us start them.
What are you saying?
The views.
Where do we place the Article 1 of the Constitution on the sovereignty of the people?
Wonderful. Now, there's something called universal suffrage. Once you vote, you transfer, because we cannot have that a million Kenyans in Senate or National Assembly. We must learn and teach ourselves basic issues of governance and politics and where they come in. You surrender. That's why it's called a social contract. When you give up your rights, you assume that the person you have given up your rights to also will compensate and do the best for you. Now, what have happened for the last 3 weeks or so? Do you know finance bills have been there every year? By the way, every year, since Kibaki's time, since Moi's time actually. But what happened? This government is very open, accountable. They are saying, come on, there is things I want to do. Come on and engage. And that's why people think it's something new.
And so
that the president has come.
Daktari, that's in order. If you welcome people to engage, and they engage, and some of them tell you that we're not comfortable with this, what are you trying to say when then again you do not want them to counter, you do not want them to question, and if they question, it's as if it's just a by the way. What is the essence of welcoming them? And by the way, it is not this government, it is the Constitution that says allow public participation. And so it's the right of the public to be part of this conversation.
You have asked a very good question in 1 minute.
Yeah.
Now, all the views people have given, every organization, and also the people who are sponsoring these changes, they have also come and also talked. Everybody has talked.
Yeah.
Both sides. Everybody has talked. The civil society talks, the president talks. Ministries talk, everybody talk. Everybody's talking. In every show, everybody is talking. Now, then, if everybody has spoken, Linda, why then don't we allow the MPs to go and make their decision?
Why is it that the president and the deputy are not doing so? Why is it that they proceed to discuss some of this matter, acknowledging the processes that this, entire process should take? I mean, I thought it's for everybody to keep silent then. Why is it that the leadership has failed?
No, my Linda. Now, why should anybody keep quiet? It's a moment of engaging.
But now, why are you telling us again for people to keep quiet? Or is
no. Nobody has said anybody to keep quiet, Linda.
Is it me who's not understanding?
There's something you forgot, Linda. Nobody said anybody to keep quiet. It is a moment of public participation.
Yes.
The president is a member of this.
What Daktari says,
the president is the head of the executive.
I didn't get Daktari right.
But what Linda is saying, because you are saying that everyone is engaging, and that when parliamentarians get to Bunge, we should allow them to speak on our behalf.
Because we cannot go.
Yes, that's right. But the engagement process is ongoing.
Yeah.
And we are saying people are uncomfortable with some of the sentiments that are coming from those elected leaders.
Some people, just some people.
But you see, for example, while you are away, we already declared, or rather verified, that during the public participation processes, about 84 different interested groups, organized groups, appeared before Bunge, and 73 of those groups that appeared before the budget committee rejected the finance bill. That is already a majority. Now, you don't expect that from your very good comments on governance as you're saying them, and Linda is already taking us to Article 1.1 of the Constitution, you don't therefore expect that 349 members, or the majority of that number, are going to support what the public are already rejecting, which is where Linda is coming in and is asking, why do you want us to keep quiet when a majority are speaking outside, representing the minority in the House, and the majority in that House are supposed to become compatible
And
with
of
that?
concern, by the way, is not just the finance bill. There are a couple of other matters.
Many.
Yes.
But on that, and by the way, Kevin, I was not away. I was just getting my things fixed. when you throw in those numbers, it's okay. When you throw in those numbers, now let me.
Through the chair, we also need to remember that the same Constitution that gives us the power to vote also gives us the power to recall in Article 104 of the Constitution. The electorate in 97 and 98 can recall those elected members.
Very good.
Only that you made it so difficult.
Perhaps he was not here when Mheshimiwa was talking. And Mheshimiwa has been part of that House. And he acknowledges that there is a problem deeply rooted in that very House. So when someone who's been part of it, perhaps we could call him the horse's mouth at this very point, acknowledges that there's a big problem within Parliament, how can we tell Kenyans to just relax and surrender everything?
Before Mheshimiwa comes in, because he was part of it, two things quickly, just two things. One, I want to insist again. Some of us have learned office. We lost. And we supported those who, however they won. Please, let us be very clear here. Not everybody who fights must win. Not everybody. So there's something we have to agree quickly. I understand. I hear Mheshimiwa very well. I hear Mheshimiwa. But I want to suggest something. If you're uncomfortable with your member of parliament, there are ways to remove them. He said it. Can we see some courageous Kenyans? Not just talking about how much evil the MPs are. But come on, let's stop this kind of going round. Now, Kevin, you said something very important. 84. And you have a number, that's rejected. First of all, we must help Kenyans. There's nothing omnibus called finance bill. There are so many clauses on many issues. Many issues. So when somebody who is a very serious Kenyan, that does serious work overseeing counties and governance, come and say the finance bill was rejected, you are not doing justice to those people who are watching us. Because there are so many clauses, Linda.
Yes.
When you say it was rejected, what was rejected? If somebody asked you, qualify that statement, what was rejected? There are so many clauses, and people are giving their views. As a matter of fact, Chairman is on record saying, wow, we were amazed because some of the comments, opinions that came, actually made it better. We actually have some things we have not seen because we are engaging, of course, with intelligent Kenyans. So let's stop this thing of demonizing the whole thing. Oh, finance bill will be rejected. How? It will be many crowds. As a matter of fact, it will be voted cross by cross. It's going to educate people. So please, let's agree on one thing. I'll go back to here. You said, he has been there. We know what happens. Why are we second guessing our members of parliament? These are honorable members. How can you with certainty 100%, Linda? Me, I'm a scientist. Can you go with 100%? Go and say you are very sure that A and B, C will happen in parliament. Why are we second guessing MPs? Well, what am I saying in a nutshell? We have done our bit. I think today the executive has been invited to now go back on some of the issues that were that were raised. To go back now and trying to say, did you hear what they say? You are the sponsors of this bill as executive. Go back and we appear in there at 11:30 as the Minister of Investments to go and defend some of the things that we proposed in the finance bill. And we'll be there, and you can be sure with us and the people who are going to be there, we are going to defend. And also, who tells you the voices of the people who rejected will be stronger than our voice?
Good question.
I'm getting it.
Yes.
I'm laboring to understand Daktari. I'm using a lot of energy to understand what he is fighting, the subject we are discussing. You asked a very simple question are the members of parliament under siege, right? And the issue here is the bill before us. The panelists here, including me, and I want to, for the records, if there is any strong supporter of William Ruto and his government in this country, one is Honorable Joe Mutambo. Ruto knows that wherever he is, whether he's sleeping or he's having dinner or breakfast, he knows I have a supporter by the name Joe Mutambo. Because I supported him to the last man in Mwingi Central. I'm not talking about the country, all right? I don't care what he does, whether he loves me or he hates me. I don't care whether he gives me a job or he fires me. I stand with my conscience, all right? The issue here is what is happening in the country and where we are.
And that he's losing popularity.
Moment. Those are the issues we are discussing. We are not talking of who voted who in. We know the pattern of voting in this country, and we know how we vote, and we know how we elect our members of parliament. And I can tell you, Daktari, it is every right of every Kenyan to vie to be elected, right? But, you know, I want to use him. He said he's a doctor. I don't know whether it's a medicine or academic. But if you are a doctor who runs a clinic and you are sick, you would want to seek a professional advice from somebody who can help you. If it is a lawyer, you need a good lawyer who can defend you. You just don't pick a lawyer because they went and they were admitted in the bar. You will lose your case. So if you need a member of parliament or a leader to represent you, I saw something yesterday on social media saying the difference between human being and animals is that animals will not let a awkward animal to lead them. Okay? They will not go that direction. They will pick the best.
Yeah.
So even us as human, we should pick the best leaders to lead us. The moment we pick a leader just because of it's being fronted by either party or by a certain group, then we pick him and we say, this is our leader, then this is where we find ourselves. The problem we are facing today, and he spoke about governance, and I'm very happy when I listened to this conversation. In 2014, 10 years ago, I was in the street here, alone, telling Kenyans, the constitution we have will come to hound us. What we have gotten as a country, having 47 counties in this country, we will not be able to manage. Today, counties? Yes. Today, you are feeling the pinch. And you are yet.
Hence my question.
And because people chose that direction, and that is the direction we chose, we have to bear with it. So I don't blame the president when he comes and says, you know, guys, we need to tax. We need to get money because we need to finance our constitutional requirements.
We take a quick
we need to finance our operations. And for us to do that, we have to get money from people.
And perhaps today, devolution is one of the key things that we need to finance. First of all, we take a quick break. Hence the reason why I said it's important that we discuss devolution, because we might want to overlook it, but things are burning at the level of the county. So we take a quick short break and we come back, discuss that, and perhaps, listen some more about your feel on the fact that the president is somewhat losing popularity. If he does not salvage the situation at this very point, the conversation will be as what it is that we witnessed in 2022 August, when they were saying that it is time that we pull a protest vote on a certain individual. After this break. Well, right next to me is Kevin Osido, and then there's Mheshimiwa Joe Mutambu and Dr. Peter Mbai. Let's swing straight to what it is that Mheshimiwa argues here before we talk about devolution, and I know this one will spend very little time on. Mheshimiwa feels like, if this is the trajectory that we're going to take as a country or as a government, then he's afraid that it's going to be a protest vote against William Ruto sometime in 2027 when he goes back to the people to say, you know what, this and that and that. Is it too early to make that judgment?
You see, Linda, that's a very technical question because you look at it from the angle of running a government, so an insider perspective, and you also look at it from an outsider perspective.
At least you have an insider.
Yes, exactly. And that's why he will tell you what the citizen is not seeing in terms of being too early or too late to judge the government. For a citizen, you begin to judge a government from the day a president, a governor, an MCA, a senator, a women rep is sworn into office. Because it is never too early. It is neither too early nor too late for that voter. That is why Mheshimiwa said that I took certain steps and I never got to see the door of Parliament again. Because had it been that people were looking at different things, he would have been voted in after another, after another, after another.
Yeah.
But the reason why people get voted out is because we look at you from the moment you say, so help me God, and you lift either that Quran or the Hindu Gita, or you lift the Bible and you swear and take that oath. We will begin to audit you from that moment. How you carry yourself, how you narrate and tell us your stories about your manifesto, your plans, and all those things. Now, for the Kenyan citizen today, looking at President William Ruto, against how he has been able to communicate, rate himself in terms of what he said he would do, I don't think that the president has done very well. And that is why, for example, in some quarters, people have said, and it has been all over social media, it has been all over these local community radio stations, people are saying, if you called elections today, we would not vote for this government. Because there are certain expectations that people had, and there are so many of them, the borders, the hustlers, people representation levels at government and even at county levels. You look at all those things put together, issues around cost of living, availability of gas and unga, food, putting food on the table, the youth who are unemployed, who are really expectant. And remember that we have more than 8.2 million of them who did not vote for this government. Whether they would vote in the event an election would be called today or not is another story. Remember that there have also been opinion polls on this particular government, ranging from the last 3 months up to a few weeks ago. And a majority of Kenyans said they would not vote for Kenya Kwanza government. They have their own good reasons why they are talking like that. For insiders now, like Mheshimiwa Mbai and some of us who have friends in government, is to help them communicate their failures and reasons why people would be uncomfortable with them being in government. Because if you have a properly oiled opposition, then there is nothing that would stop that opposition from voting out that government. To the extent that one we've talked about recall clause. So if you are uncomfortable with your MCA or your MP or even a president, you can impeach the president, Senate or at National Assembly level, they can impeach the president. You can impeach your governor at the county assembly. You can vote out an MCA, you can vote out an MP. Though all those are provisions that have been put for people who are uncomfortable. Well, that is partly why, for example, you see the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, coming back and saying, we need to reorganize the Jubilee Party because there are gaps that they are convinced if we took advantage of these gaps, then chances that we can either vote out or organize ourselves to be voted in 2027 are so high.
Okay.
So it is a good thing for government, those who are in government, to begin to look at those loopholes and say, okay, if this sect of people are uncomfortable with us and how we are managing or providing services or ruling or leading or representing them, what is it that we need to do to be able to take back the confidence?
Dr. Ari, picking it up from what Kevin says, and quickly, just like a joke, these are some of the statements that were said about the previous government, and I'll not go back into history, but I'll focus, okay, well, perhaps in the most recent history that we have. And they said it was propaganda. It went to an extent of people rejecting the man that was endorsed by the former president. They said if Right Honorable Raila Odinga were to go it alone, he would have stood, better chances in comparison to him being endorsed by the former president. At some point in time, they argued that, the opinion polls were being sponsored and everything. Are you not scared that these utterances are out here, or you want to bury your heads in the sand and say that there's nothing wrong?
I want to say from the word go, where the president sits today, he is very much aware of the high level of expectation. Without a doubt, because of where the country was when he took over. So he's not oblivious. He's not living in another world. He lives in this world. He knows what Kenyans would want. Now, the president has two choices, or had two choices. Either to come and make it flowery and, by the way, let's go even make sure that the unga is subsidized. Let's go and make sure we borrow more to manage prices of fuel. He had that choice as a president.
Yeah.
But then, just like Mahatma Gandhi did one day, President Ruto decided, because I'm here to stay, because I would want the good for this country, because I want to leave a foundation that other people can ride on, let us straighten our belts a bit. Let me communicate to Kenyans and tell them, let's follow, I don't want to say the hard way or, like what people say. Let us follow this straight path to be able to put a good to stabilize our economy. Then we can move on later. I want to say that in a nutshell, without going back. He had a choice of making this very flowery. He decided, and that's what you see, every time the president is the chief communicator, he's always communicating. He's always saying, guys, can we talk? Can we have this conversation? Can I try to answer all your issues so that we have an idea of going forward? Now, I want to say two things. What Kevin has said, what he thinks people are saying. Let me say what I think people are also saying. The Kenyan people are very patient with their leaders in the beginning. They are very patient with their leaders. They will elect a leader and give them time. That's what I know. Because they understand very well. You are elected for a 5-year term.
Yeah.
And if there are issues there, you sort it later there. 5 years, a whole 5 years. What I know about Kenyans, they watch you, like you said, I agree. The first day, even how you hold your Bible, when you are being sworn in, is being watched, right? Everything you do and everything you say. If you look at what the president has been doing for the last 6 months, he has been very consistent on one, the issue of stabilizing the economy from naturally. Let me put that out, naturally. Because you cannot be in a hole and you're still digging. So he has been very consistent. Number two, consistent on how to put money and his resources on areas where slowly, and I want to use this one, economy leader, you don't just do a switch. You don't do a switch on economy, it improves overnight. Look at what happened. It took many years for Kibaki to drive that thing up to 7% of GDP. But then it just went like this because of the politics of 2007, 2008. So we are trying to grow this, the economy. I can tell you this today. You said, people, if elections are held today, there are no elections being held. What I can tell you is that the government is absorbing, listening to all the views and all that, and using it positively to make itself better.
Yeah.
It's not looking at it like opposition, like bad things. That's why you see the president has no problem. Even talking, even the talks, because he's saying, anybody with an idea that can make this country better, we are on for it. There's no panic. Leader, I want to say that on record. Okay. There's no panic. However, and it is good for me to say, the government is keen on every single word being said by every Kenyan, and using that to make its decisions and policies to make them better. That there is no panic of saying, we are done. It's 8 months since the president took. The first budget of the president will be passed. It will start being working in July. Even in America, you judge governments through where they put money in their budget to show where they are heading to.
Well, fair enough. And Mheshimiwa, we come to you to respond to that. But, on top of responding, am I hearing you say that devolution was a mistake? Because if you look at the 2010 Constitution, if there's something that was key in this very document, was the coming in of devolution, which many have appreciated. But as it stands, I have had people questioning whether the Ruto government is keen on pushing for for devolution to succeed?
Before I come to devolution, because subject I've discussed and massaged for many years, and I have my own reasons and reservations. Let me go back to where he has left. He is saying that he's not worried, and the president is not worried.
Panic.
Oh, there's no panic. Let me tell you.
Panic is worse than worry.
The same statement, I heard it from my former president. Uhuru Kenyatta was my good friend. And the day Uhuru Kenyatta went to IDC and banned the goods from Nyamakema people and said these goods are substandard. Okay? That was the parting point. And I remember telling him personally, my friend, hii kitu ya watu wa Nyamakema wachana naye. Do you know what he said? We must grow as a country. We must grow. We must ban these things. He crashed even the motor vehicles which were brought. He paraded them and they drove a bulldozer on top. And my idea was, instead of driving a bulldozer on it, why can't you give to these Kikomba mechanics this vehicle? They remove the parts and they sell the make back. He crashed them. That was undoing of Uhuru Kenyatta. If you don't know why Uhuru lost in Mount Kenya. When he said those people who are bringing in goods in partnership, stop it. You bring your own container. And they auctioned those guys. And those guys started committing suicide. That was the end. Right? Today, people are in the streets complaining so bitterly about Ruto. And those who love him, we are telling him, you know what? You came in when you had no government. Nobody will remove you because you have the government. That's the narrative we are selling to him. You are in power. You cannot come out. I want to tell those who are saying that, including my good friend here at the top. He has not said it, but I hope you will see it from my perspective. And I repeated by saying, history in this Kenya repeats itself so easily. Ruto and Uhuru became got power when they were outside the government, challenging Prime Minister and Vice President. Kalonzo Musyoka and Raila, they got it. Ruto became president when he was being opposed by the government. The same narrative can come back in 2027. That Ruto is in power, and the people who are not in power, they can remove it. So I am scared as a friend of Ruto. And that's why I'm saying this. Why can't we listen to what people are saying? When Jesus Christ came here, he could not do things by himself. He had to get some disciples
to tell him, yeah.
I want Daktari to look at the disciples Ruto has and tell them, out of those disciples who are helping him, every person, including my good friend Kashagwa, who comes from the same place where I got my wife, when he opens his mouth and says, this government is for shares.
Shareholders.
So people like us who come from Mwingi and we never wore yellow when we voted him in because we were in the previous government, but we supported him. What do we think? We say we are not wanted there because we don't own shares and we don't know how to buy the shares for this government. So what will we do? We'll treat back. What does that mean? It is minus 10,000 votes from Mwingi. That's what it means. So are we scared of that or we are not? So when we take things so casually and we say, there's no problem, this man has got the power and we will marshal in, I'm telling you, this country is not heading to the right direction and it is not good for our good friend William Samoei Ruto, the big Asla. Asla number one. It is not good for him. Coming back now to the issue of what we have raised. Devolution. Everybody in this country loves devolution. Do you know why? Because there is quick money in the counties and the money reaches them. But what do we do with that money? I remember one person, and I watched him, an economist. And he said, this government, not this one of Ruto, from the time we implemented the 2010 constitution. The government became wasted. Right? Yes, things are being done in some manner whereby we had governors like Mutua who did a road within 27 days. And I can tell you, out of that road, 3 of my friends committed suicide because they were given promises, they borrowed money, they were auctioned, and they could not stand the heat.
Pending bills.
They committed suicide. Ask yourselves, how much pending bills do we have in our counties today? Put them, lump them together, and tell me where are we going to get that money from?
We're talking
these
about
are the issues we are having, and if we don't hold these issues, this country in 10 years, Linda, you're crying today. Tears, you will cry blood.
God forbid. Here we are, and County Governance Watchman is here, has been looking at the question of the counties and how they perform. Perhaps is one of the biggest believers on devolution. Do you suppose this equally is going to be one of the reasons that would get the president unpopular if at all is not going to address the concerns? And the biggest concern has been on the disbursement of funds. Today, we're talking about what billions are supposed to be taken there, 300 and something. But then again, we only have 90 something that has gone to the level of the counties. And they keep saying that, well, you're squeezing us by the day, and before you know it, we'll be dead. Does it have to wait for a point where then they say we're going to shut down the counties if you do not send the monies for the monies to go there?
And you're right in saying that devolution is going to be one of those departure points, because even as we talk about 10 years into our devolved system of governance, 9 to 10 years, the mentality of Kenyans and that belief of service delivery is largely the fact that national government needs to do those things. Even construction of roads. And that is why you'll hear the president telling parliamentarians that if you don't support this bill, we will not construct your roads. Because he forgets that the constitution has actually devolved some of those roads to the counties. So we have classes of roads that are supposed to be done at the county levels and by county governments. But he's largely right, because the money and the expectation that finances are going to come for building those roads are coming from the national government through treasury. Which is partly why I think that the struggle that the national government has on the disbelief that people have around their love for and support to devolution is dwindling and is diminishing, is a lack of appropriate conversation and communication between the governors, so the Council of Governors, and the national government. Now, you look at the kind of discussions that take place between national government represented by the Deputy President and COG, or what I would call the IBEC, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Council, that is chaired by the Deputy President. It is more or less like a top-bottom as opposed to a bottom-up discussion. Where he comes and he says, munafikiri tuko na pesa, sisi hatuna pesa. Hata tukiwapatia hiyo pesa, munafanya nini na hiyo pesa? Because he forgets that every day counties are engaging in service delivery. Hence the reason, Linda, why the governors will say, if you don't give us the money, we are going to shut down county governments. And they're right in saying so, because there is an over-reliance in the national government to be able to disburse resources to the counties so that they are able to do what the citizens expect them to do. Remember that the national government, so the president and also his deputy, politically speaking, relied a lot on a number of counties to support them to be elected, because that is how the politics is done in this country, that the more number of counties you have, the chances of you being president are so high in terms of votes and even in terms of county governments. Now, they have to begin to convince the majority of Kenyans that they love devolution by also ensuring that counties are able to effectively discharge their mandates. How? One, the over-delay in disbursement of resources by the Kenya Kwanza government is not good for devolved governance or devolved units of government. So we are having pending payments, or let me call them pending bills, that have been going on since the former government. But we are also proud that for the first time, the Kenya Kwanza government is going to be reading their budget a few days from today. But we're also keen to look at how much of that budget is in support of devolution.
further to say is also to look at how much of that budget policy statement and the conversations around support of devolution are also pushing governments to exercise what I would call on-source revenue. Because county governments have also not been very proactive in terms of generating their own revenue as counties.
Yeah.
Yet they have a big potential and the opportunity to be able to generate that money. Now, number 3 is on pending bills. Accountability around pending bills is not clear. Linda, remember that during COVID, we had the former president making a lot of blanket statements and pushing the controller of budget, auditor general, and counties to be able to clearly undertake a good audit of the pending bills, because we have pending bills. Some of them don't even have documentation, so they are ineligible. They cannot be paid. But to the degree that you have already verified payments, why can't we have a clear mechanism where counties prioritize pending bills for people whose services were rendered and payments are pending, so that we clear them? But remember that national government is aggravating this by over-delayment of sending monies to county governments. At the national government, they have said, at the national level, they have said there is no money. Now, there is no money, but you look at the number of prayer rallies that are going on. You look at what Mheshimiwa calls over expenditure, borrowing from the economist David D. How does that play against the over expectation of the citizens in a government that they voted for, with the expectation that when we vote for this Kenya Kwanza government, we will have jobs, there will be ease of doing business, health facilities, because that is the worst performing as we speak today in county governments. No medicines, no drugs. Some of them, doctors and medical service providers, are threatening to strike every day. There is no motivation. The people who are actually attending to citizens at the county levels in those health facilities are people who largely love their work, and they have taken that Hippocratic oath, and they are saying, we will go to work despite all these challenges. So county governments have had to go an extra mile to begin to borrow money through overdrafts from banks. Is that really sustainable? In my view, I don't think it is. So there is a more discussion and more conversation that needs to be done by both national and county governments, but largely the political goodwill needs to come from the national government.
And Mheshimiwa or Dr. allow me to get the facts right in terms of the numbers. That 94 billion is the amount of money that the counties are owed in delayed disbursements. That is for April, May, and June as it stands right now. And that 305 billion is the amount of money that counties have been given so far out of the 370 billion allocated to the current financial year. And they will even tell you, fine, that is in the previous government perhaps, because then we're looking at the year of the previous government. And that even 305 billion is way below if you really want to see devolution a success. And so what is expected, in the next financial year in terms of making sure that there's a boost in the counties? Because in as much as we might say that perhaps that was a mistake, reality is that with the current dispensation, we have the counties functional for that matter. And therefore, it is either we make them work or make them work.
It's very simple one. I've had a lot of sentiments before, or saying, it was a mistake to have 47 county governments, 2010. But the people who are saying that, they were in Kenya. Nobody was abroad, They were here. People decided. And people voted. If you want to live life, even at a personal level, don't live life going backwards. Live life going forward, because you cannot begin going saying, it happened. What are we supposed to do with the counties? We must empower our counties, think them about the best about them, work with them, hold their hands until they become like American states, where they are, they are able to be, on their feet. They are able to do production in a big way and even compete with others. That's the challenge we have today. That's the way forward. Now, on the issues of money, leader, you saw the Deputy President speak yesterday. He was and that's the position of government. Look, we are doing our best. We are all into some kind of issues coming up economically as a nation. That's a fact. That's why you see all those things happening, because we're in a place, where the plane is, trying to fight the skies before it gets to the level. That's why we are as a nation. So we are coming from a pit. We are trying to go up. So he said, we are going to pay this kind of money. And he said, he was very categorical. The last 3 years, the last 4 or 5 years, counties would go to a new financial year with over 3 months, sometimes 4 months, unpaid dues. Let's also do comparison, Linda. They would go with about 4 months unpaid. So this one, he's saying, if we can do our best and just maybe, we are not able to give the June disbursement by the end. That was the most truthful and honest statement I've ever heard from any government official ever. Because he's saying, we are all in this together, but this is what's going to happen. If you are assured, Linda, that in a year is only maybe the possibility he gave, only maybe June will not be possible. That's a big feat. So what am I saying? Let's believe in the counties. Can we, the energy we are using to think very bad things about counties, if we can just use the same energy to just help, look at us, professionals, right? Kevin, Mheshimiwa and others. Let's believe in those counties. How we can go and invest there so that there is more, the economic drive continues in the counties. And that's what the president has done. By doing county aggregation industrial parks in every county, that shows the government believes in the counties. We are investing money in the counties as a national government. And telling the governors, bring your money to 50 million. National government is giving to 50 million. So go and put drivers of the economy, manufacturing to start there. The job creation and all that. Another EPZ, like 6 of them. There can we all believe in the counties? That's what the national government, you can imagine, Linda, when we have 47 industries, with jobs creation, manufacturing, exports and all that, with cold rooms, where all the harvest, all those things harvested are put in cold rooms. And then if Makueni misses something that is in Nyandarua or Kiambu, it is taken there. Can we believe in the counties? How do we do it? If we can increase productivity, okay, instead of having a lot of consumer, things in the counties, productivity, that's how we are going to grow, because there's no national government without the counties. Because counties is where work is. That's where farmers are. That is where youth are who are not employed. So the idea is, I would want us to think positively and say, do we have a challenge? When you say counties, even here is a county. So we must believe in those counties and try to prop them up.
Dr. No one is saying that we should not be positive about the aspect of devolution. In fact, the formation of the counties was a process of trust and belief. I think the conversation started with this talk of Majimboism. It is because we all felt like there are very many Kenyans who perhaps are underutilized. There are very many resources at the level of the counties that need to be tapped into, and hence the formation of the counties today. So to imagine that there's anyone who perhaps would have little faith in that, perhaps it could be misplaced. But the reality again is that things are probably not working as envisioned. So what do we do to make sure that, we're able to address this? And I agree with what Daktari says, that we have it here already. So we cannot go back to say that, well, this is what I said about this, document. I wish we would have taken a different direction. And we acknowledge the dynamism of our constitution. And we know that we can reverse the conversation any other time if things are not working right. But now that we have it here, Mheshimiwa, now that we have it, can we not be positive for a second?
Let me tell you, as you sit here, every person in this country appreciates devolution, including those who are opposing it. We appreciate, all right? You ask me as a politician, actually I'll say I would want Mwingi to be a county tomorrow, right?
Right.
From Kitui, because it's so large. That's what I would want, because that's what the people of Mwingi want. So you have to go with the wishes of people. But let's come back. You have just said something very pertinent, which I want to draw my comments from. You have read some numbers that counties are owed how much for this financial year, which is ending tomorrow?
307.
How much?
Let me give it 94 billion.
And how much have
that
they
is for April,
Yes.
May, and June. They have so far received 305 billion, a difference of, I would say,
Out of 300,
because they're supposed to get 370
they have
billion.
gotten only
305.
305.
Yes.
What does that tell you? Number two, ask yourself that question. Then go back again to the pending bills. We have Public Finance Management Act, right? Which says there is no government office which can procure without resources. How did we find ourselves having pending bills? How did those counties procure when they did not have the money. All right? So if you do the audit,
yeah,
how much pending bills we have in our counties?
159 billion.
159 billion. Now, if you open your shop today, and after 5 or 10 years, you have a deficit of 159 billion. What is the right thing to do for that shop? What do you do?
Yes, sometimes
You become an accomat.
Yeah.
You become an accomat.
Yeah.
You close the shop.
Close the shop.
You close the shop. You continue. So in 10 years, we have 100 and, how much did you say?
59 billion.
159 billion. In 20 years, we'll be having 300 and billion.
Mathematics.
So
Perhaps
that is the legacy we'll leave to our children. Because in 20 years, my son now will be running for either MCA or a member of parliament. All right? The one whom I will give birth tonight, if I will.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Will be running as a member of parliament.
Yeah.
That is the legacy I'll give to that child.
Right.
So are we focusing on the future of this nation? If these numbers are anything to go by. Okay? Are we focusing? Are we asking ourselves questions? Or we are trying to make those who are in leadership happy by telling them, we support you and we do this for you and we'll vote for you and you are the best king and you are... Let us give them, situation as it is on the ground. And the situation on the ground is bad for common Mwanaiji with what we have today.
Well.
So devolution is a good thing and it's being embraced by everyone. All right? But we have to think again and ask ourselves, the drafters of the Constitution who came up with the idea of devolution, where did they get the idea from? Say they borrowed it from America. So what do America do? The Americans, a county or a state of America, the taxes of that state are paid to that state, not to the national government. So that state can sustain itself. All right? Now, we have 47 beggars in this country. Because all the governors of the counties are beggars. They are begging the national government.
Yeah.
Okay? The taxes are collected there, sent to Nairobi, or sent to the national treasury. Then now they beg. Why can't we rethink and say, instead of these taxes being paid to the national government, let the taxes be paid to the counties so that counties can be accountable to it themselves.
Okay.
That they don't ask the national government. That would be a step forward. Number two, there will be a question asked, what will the national government do? We have national resources. We have national amenities, whereby we collect taxes for the nation, like the airports, like the port, like so many other avenues where the government can collect taxes to sustain itself and to pay for the security, for the teachers. But if you tax Mwananchi unga, and I live in Mwingi and you tax and I pay my 20 shillings, I expect that 20 shillings to be plowed back to Mwingi Central to do my road. Well, but when it comes to national government, it becomes now I have no control over it. My governor has to beg. You have to align yourself with the current government so that when the disbursement of the county money is being disbursed, you are at least number 1 to 10. All right? Well, if you don't do that, that county, or if you are against the government, then that county will be the last to get its shares. So what will happen? And we have done something let me tell you this. We have done something very dangerous. We have entrusted the counties with our lives because we have devolved health. All right?
Yes.
What will you do when you are sick? And that county, that governor don't have money to buy medicine. And they are the one who are supposed to handle your health. Water is also devolved. So agriculture is also devolved. And we are not giving them money to take care of ourselves. What will happen to this country?
It's a danger. Gentlemen, I can only afford you 30 seconds strictly to sum it up. Food for thought. 30 seconds.
It's over.
Yes.
Right.
Just like that. We have to.
I thought you were just beginning. Linda, there are a number of reasons as to why we have pending bills in counties. And I think that part of the conversations that needs to take place is how we deal with those issues. And one of those is that some counties circumvent the IFMIS, the Integrated Financial Management System, that needs to be sorted out. County assemblies also need to support county governments to pass progressive laws that can be able to help them to enhance their own source revenue. So, for example, digitization is a big